we want to open with ministry of education that develops a curriculum for all ghetto schools. Not just for Chicago, but once we develop it, it has to be accepted. See, we're like colonies now. Not the 13 colonies, but in all the major cities, there's a ghetto. The Chinese not called a ghetto. They're in a separate community, but they control the education, the politics, the business of their community. And they function pretty good, separate.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent and Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who came in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad. And I further bear witness that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is indeed the exalted Christ, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is our friend, our guide, and a reminder in our midst. And it is in their names that I have the honor and privilege agreeing in the words of peace and paradise. Assalamu alaikum. So, once again, we're back with a new educational paradigm, continuing with the goal of responding to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's call for us to create a new educational paradigm, and with that, to create a new curriculum, a curriculum not only for those citizens that are registered members of the Nation of Islam, but our whole community, a curriculum which will address the needs of our people. So with that said, we have joining us once again one of my co-hosts, Sister Deborah L. Muhammad, who is in Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Walaikum salam. And we have Dr. Ridgely Muhammad, who is the Student Minister of Agriculture and also the manager of Muhammad Farms. So today we're going to start off like we always do, and just remembering that even though we'll bring in different guests, the goal is still to get at what should be included in a curriculum for our people. So with that said, I'll start off with the first question, of course, for Dr. Ridgely. And the question is, of course, what is the purpose of education from your perspective?
Okay, you know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, a few years ago, he spoke to us at the Ministry of Education, or say Muhammad University of Islam, had a educational conference, and you know, he mentioned about how we need to gear an educational system that takes into our people's needs, which he again mentioned in 10-10-15. But the question is, what do you need? And most people just need a job and some money. But that depends on who's going to pay you for what, because they have an agenda. So you first got to have an agenda. Education should bring out of you what's in you. That means that something's already there. There's already some wants, some desires, some likings. There are some skill sets. I mean, it's not very realistic if you are 4'8" to say you want to be the center for a professional basketball team. Okay, that's not fit for stature. However, there are a lot of things that you can be that's not dependent on your physical stature, but on other things. But the key, and I've been through the white man system from segregated junior, elementary, junior high, to prep school, which was at a white prep school. I was taken as a, you know, one of those good Negroes to be uplifted into the white world. Then I went to Columbia University, then to a historically black college, then do a PhD. Went through the whole system, and what the system never really told you is what they were up to. They didn't tell you what they were up to, but I can see what they were up to. They were up to first acculturating me to accept the Western world of the white man as the best thing that ever happened to the planet Earth. They wasted a lot of time in prep school. Then again in college, your first 2 years, you don't get into any really technical stuff that you thought you was going to get into. Instead, they talk to you about history, Western civilization. They're trying to get you first to accept the paradigm that the white man's world is the best that it's ever been, and you're going to fit into his world. Then, after about 2 years, they start teaching you a few things. But then you come out, you don't really, all you have knowledge to do is to write a resume or to get into a college or to get a job. So then you go to a master's degree, which gives you more specifics about a particular thing, but still you don't know how it's going to be used. Then you might even get a PhD, or you might go on to work in a company. And when you work in that company, they never tell you about the industry that you're in. You don't learn about the different parts of that company, how it works together, because they want you to be a cog in the wheel of that company. All right? So again, it goes to the purpose of this world's education is for you to serve this world, and that's world meaning the white man. You're going to fit into whatever he tells you to do because you believe he is your guide in life, because his world is the best thing that ever happened for the planet Earth. And that's the first thing that must be destroyed in the mind of young black people, that myth of the white man's superiority. And this is what the teachings of Honorable Elijah Muhammad does. It destroys that myth. So now, after that myth is out of your head, now what do your people need? What does the world need? Then you begin to hone in on what you see as problems that could be made better and how you might be a part of making it better. So then you want to specialize yourself to become a tool to making the world better, bringing in God's kingdom on earth. So that's a complete paradigm shift from you trying to find a job to make some money to fit into the white man's world, because you believe that's the best thing they can be. See, black folks don't believe if they separate, they're going to have air conditioning and a car. They don't believe that they're going to be able to eat. They don't believe they're going to be able to defend themselves. So therefore, they don't think about anything other than getting a job. I'll give you one instant, simple thing, and then we'll go on. I'm in a room right now, okay? There's doors and windows in this room. If I never intend to leave this room, I do not need to know the difference between a window and a door. Okay? But if I intend to leave this room, I need to know the difference, because I want to open the door. But if I don't intend to leave, I don't need to know the difference between a window and a door or wall, because I do not intend to leave. So again, you must have purpose, nia, purpose first. What do you want to do? Now, when you really have a purpose of what you want to do, then you find means and methods to help you do that. You need information. You need training to help you do what it is you plan to do. But if that's messed up, then the rest of it is messed up. Right now, the educational system is to train you so you fit into the white man's world and do what he says do, the best that you can in terms of what he wants, to serve him. Now, when you change that to serving your people, now you got to figure out what they need and what's the best way for us to service those needs. And then I will build myself into this machine, this God that's going to help serve that particular need or want of the people. Needs first, wants later.
Thank you, Dr. Ridgely. Now, you said a lot, and really looking at, and it's important to know what this educational system is currently doing to us and how it's negatively impacting us, so that we know that what we have to come up with is going to be something totally different and brand new. One of the things that you said that stuck out, because like I mentioned, is that we want to bring in, some people may have thought this is a little strange, because even though you are an educator, you may not be an educator in the traditional sense. But what you spoke about in terms of as you go and matriculate through the educational system, especially in undergraduate education, is that you're really not learning how to do something for yourself. You're not really being equipped throughout your educational experience, for the most part, to be able to do something and to be a producer. So if you're not a producer, that means that you have to be an employee, that you're really preparing yourself so that you can work into somebody else's plan. So it's really important that we have someone who has a background in not just being involved in agriculture as one who will be an employee, but one who has a mind of seeing ourselves as individuals that have to become producers of a new reality. And if we're going to eat, we have to begin to look at ourselves as the ones who will be able to provide that food. So with that, you know, kind of transitioning into that next question is what should education, if we're going to create a new educational curriculum, and of course I know I don't want to put you in a box of just agriculture, but looking at agriculture, which there's a lot in that, what should education be doing for our people? When we create an educational system, we don't want, or we shouldn't be looking to duplicate, you know, this current system, and instead of talking about European history, we're going to replace them. We're going to just talk about Black history. But outside of that, it's the same system, the same thing that's going on. So what should we think, or what should we, as we're going down the path of creating a new educational system, what should education do for us?
Well, let's just, you know, deal with what people, when they hear the word agriculture, they think of a farmer behind a mule or on a plow. And as far as they're concerned, that's it. That's all agriculture is. But when they brought us over here, we were just not, the farmer has to do a whole lot more than just plow the ground. He does a lot of other things. As a matter of fact, he has to know when to plant. So to know when to plant, you got to know what time it is. So then the farmer had to become an astronomer, because he had to keep up with time so he know when to plant. Then when you produce a crop, you got to count how many crops you got. All right, so that's, you heard this thing called a bean counter. Okay, is a colloquial for an accountant. Well, that's how it all started. Somebody had to keep up with the product that was being produced so they could be distributed to the people. But to distribute it to the people, you didn't know how many people is out there. So here you got the social scientists to, in fact, keep track of the people, statistics, and how much money they got, what they can afford, where they're living, etc. So everything comes from agriculture. Then you got to fix your equipment. So now you got to have somebody who knows mechanics, fixing equipment. Then you have to design equipment. You got to have an engineer to help you design equipment. So all of these come out from that purpose of feeding the people. Now, what they have done in the 60s, they removed vocational agriculture from the curriculum. And then later, they removed vocational education all the way. They removed home economics. They removed shop, okay, auto repair, plumbing, carpentry. When I was younger, going to school, in junior high school, they had those courses in junior high school and high school. So when you come out, at least you know how to fix your car. You at least you know how to fix a door. At least you know how to fix a toilet. So you know how to take care of yourself in your home. Now you may have gone on further and became a carpenter or a plumber or a brick mason, okay, or a seamstress. But when you came out of high school, you had some basics. Now when you come out of high school, you have no basics of anything. Mercy of the white man's system, and now you got to buy everything. So your toilet gets stocked up. You got to have enough money to pay for a plumber to come in and fix it. When your car won't run, you got to pay somebody to come in and change the battery or determine if there's a problem with the starter. You don't know how to do anything. You can't even change your oil. And they're fixing it so you can't do anything on any of these things. We found this out with the new tractor we got that we had to get rid of, because they're fixing it so you can't do nothing. You have to bring it in and pay $90 an hour for everything. Okay? But at one time we knew how to do things. So now, how do we restart? Now you restart by two things. Number one, the foundation. That's number 4 on the Muslim program. The foundation is what? We want some land. We want to separate. Okay? Now, once you decide you need some land, you're going to separate, then everything comes in your minds of what you're going to need to do that. You're going to need somebody who know how to grow food. You're going to need somebody who know how to process food, how to transport it. You got to know somebody who know how to build cars, fix trucks. You got to have all those things. So now a person can see how they're going to fit into that system of the industry of agriculture and all those things that support it, because you know you got to eat. Well, then you know you're going to have transportation. You're going to have to be the fly from this part of the world to the next part of the world if you got your own country. So now you got to have people in aviation, building planes, flying planes, etc. When you have decided you're going to separate, you got to think about all the things you're going to need to be able to sustain yourself, and all those become curriculums. They become some specific things that you got to teach your people how to do. And that's where education comes in. That's number 9 on what the Muslims want, Muslim program. That is, we got to have our own educational system. You got to teach your own people these things. Before we were brought over here, we had what's called a guild system. That is, the fathers would teach their sons. All right? If you're a farmer, you teach your son to be a farmer. You're a carpenter, you teach your son to be a carpenter. You're a cook, you teach your daughter to be a cook. You're a seamstress, you teach her how to sew. Okay? So there was and if you didn't have the skills, somebody else in the tribe, in the community had the skills. So they would learn directly from the expert, from the master. And then you would grow up on that. But they destroyed that when they came into Africa. They destroyed the guild system. Okay? They stole the engineers and left people who did not know anything. And then they come and say, we didn't know nothing, but you stole them and brought them over here. Because we got the proof that when you sold us as engineers. You sold us as millwrights. Okay? You sold us as seamen. You sold us as the things that you needed. You sold from plantation to plantation. And then you put this lie out that we didn't know how to do anything in Africa. Well, where did we learn engineering from? Because there was no engineering schools in the South until after Emancipation Proclamation. There were no schools in the South that taught engineering before the Emancipation Proclamation. Yet they sold us the engineers. Where did we learn engineering from? We had it when they came with it. And then you made us to do it. And then you killed us off and lied to say we didn't know. So now we have to go back into all these things. We got to look at the world whole different. We got to see what are the needs. We got to see what are the resources out there on the planet and in the universe. And then we got to figure out how to transform those resources into the needs and the wants of the people. So there's a whole range of things that come up. Then you got to find your place in that. But you got to get your purpose together. I want to be free and independent. I don't believe that the white man is God. He did a good job of tearing up things for 6,000 years, but there was a better world before he came, and there will be a better world after he goes, and we're going to start that right now. I am arrogant when it comes to the white man. I don't believe that he's smart as I am, because I've been in his system. I know fear that we can make it without him. The only thing that makes me fear is fear from Negroes. They scare me.
Praise be to Allah.
I said it.
Well, yes, I would like to jump in here if I can. Dr. Ridgely, when you were speaking about the college and the education that we get from a bachelor's degree to a graduate and even now to a PhD degree, there's actually a documentary that deals with the college conspiracy that breaks it all down, and how that the time that you spend in college, the amount of loans that you take out and whatnot, over the time of you working is not even worth the paper. The degree is not even worth the paper that is written on, because of course, how much they charge you just to get the degree. And they say that it's actually a college conspiracy because, as you said, now we come out with a paper, but we don't come out with a skill and something that we can do. So you're absolutely correct on that. And then on the second point, you were speaking about where do we start in terms of if we need to rebuild a civilization. As a matter of fact, on Wikipedia, there's something called a civilization restarter kit. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a wiki, it's an open source media where you have all the things that are necessary in order to restart a civilization should, we be at ground zero today. It teaches you how to build your own tractors from used parts. It teaches you how to do water purification systems. All of those skills that you were talking about that are necessary in order to, restart a civilization. Which brings me to this point. Years ago, I don't know if you remember, but we were on a team together that was dealing with a national high school. And we were looking at the prospect of putting it out there on a farm in Georgia. And just like with Tuskegee, wouldn't it be a wonderful idea if we could have a facility out there on the farm where we're teaching our, maybe start off with the young men and have them build the housing, the dormitory, while they're working the farm, they're learning the skills, beginning to build an infrastructure right there, get real hands-on experience. And so in terms of like what you're saying, there's nothing better than experience in order to learn. So what is your take on the whole concept of starting, you know, a national high school out there on the farm, but starting it, not looking for everything to be built up already, but actually have, you know, maybe have cohorts where you bring students in and start maybe with the brothers and have them build an infrastructure, and then we grow from there.
Well, if I had a checkbook enough money, I'd set that up right now, which you just talking about. As a matter of fact, we have done a number of proposals, and I thought through it very. You know, we started an apprenticeship program last year. We had 2 sets of 4 young black men each last year, and inshallah, we're going to do it again this summer, where they come in and actually work. And what we did is a prototype of what I would love to see as that national high school. In the mornings, when it's cool, they work in the field. But when it gets too hot, then they come inside to the air conditioning, and we deal with theory. So so they understand what they did and how it fits in. So we need teachers who know both the practical and the theoretical. So you go in the field in the morning for the brothers with the practical, and then that teacher in the afternoon deals with the theoretical of how that all fits together and what it all means. The same thing for the sisters. I had a situation where you have men and women, but in the morning, the sisters would be in class. Okay, the brothers in the field, the sisters are in class. Now the brothers come out the field. One of the things that you might be doing while you're in the field is harvesting product, right? So in the afternoon, the sisters would work in the manufacturing plant, in the processing plant. If we're dealing with cotton, they'd be making clothes in the air conditioning. So in the morning, when the brothers are in the field, the sisters will be doing the theoretical. In the afternoon, they'll be doing the actual physical processing of whatever everything they're going to do. And then in the afternoon, that's when the brothers will be in the classroom to deal with the theoretical. Just an idea, just a thought.
How much money do you need
that it can work.
How much money do you think that you would need for something like that?
You know, it's like this, sister. I've done things on a shoestring so much. I said, just give me about $100,000 and I can set you up a university. I mean, that's just how we have to work down here. So it's kind of hard. I can't put the figures to it, you know, because I have to think on two levels, you know. In other words, the reality, how much money we can get, and then what would be the best solution. But before I get past that, I want to say something about the training in college and the difference in that than what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad mindset. When I was going to North Carolina A&T and agricultural economics, all right, I had to take an accounting class. And in the class, the teacher would try to inspire us to do a good job. So he said, listen, if you do good job in economics and accounting, you get out, you get your good job, you can make maybe $30,000, $40,000 a year. Well, this is 1974. $30,000 to $40,000 in 1974 was a lot of money. So he kept doing that. So I stopped him. I said, excuse me, sir, respectfully, sir, you know, do you know what that man knows that can pay me $30,000? Can you teach me what he knows that can pay me $30,000? Because I'm not interested in getting a job for $30,000. I'm interested in making jobs for others. So if you can't teach me what he knows, teach me what you know. But don't try to inspire me about no $30,000 job. I'm not interested. Okay? Because at that time, I was already in the Nation of Islam. I was going to learn some skills to help. All right? I'm going into no job. I'm about to build stuff for others. So that's the mindset that we would like our young people to go into college. You know, after they come, say, the high school. When you go into college, you're going in there with a mindset. Now you're going to pick up some more skills so you can take over. So you're going asking the teacher questions. You're not going to sit there and just go by what the teacher's giving you in the book. You're going to ask the teacher questions to force that teacher to teach you all that they know on that subject that will help you do what you want to do. Because you already know what you want to do when you get there. When I got my PhD at Michigan State, I knew when I went in there what my dissertation was going to be about. So I went in there looking for courses that would fit into that dissertation and doing papers and asking dissertation. So by the time I finished my coursework, I had all I needed to go right to my data collection, my dissertation. Them crackers didn't know what the hell happened to them. I came in there in 4 years and walked out of there with a PhD. I left a lot of white people who were already there still sitting there because they were trying to find their way. I knew exactly what I was going to do when I went in there. So this is what we want our students come out of high school to know exactly what they want to get out of the system when they go to college, so they'll force the system to teach them what they need to know, not what the system wants to teach them.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Ridgely. There's a lot you said.
But I'm going to work on the figures.
Yes, sir.
Sister Deborah, I'm going to work on those
figures. Yes, sir. And we're going to work on them too, inshallah.
All right. Okay, I'm sorry, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you. There's a lot that was said, and actually, I'm looking online. We actually have a question from one of our co-hosts that wasn't able to join on with video. But his question is, how do we encourage young people to realize the importance of agriculture and our survival when the sentiment of farming is misunderstood as well as tied to our 500 years as chattel slaves?
Well, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is already doing that. What do I mean by that? My wife is going around to a number of different USDA-sponsored programs over the years. And this year, she said the last place she was at, she was amazed at how many young black people were at this conference. And so, and the USDA people don't know what's going on. There's a lot of young people going into agriculture, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture don't even know. But I know because 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, Mr. Farrakhan started going around the country to the black HBCUs and talking about the importance of agriculture. So our young people are responding already. So Mr. Farrakhan is changing the view of agriculture. And we gave Sister Bessie Jean Bessie Jean Farrakhan the Farmer of the Year Award. Not just because she's a great farmer and she did a great training program at the farm, but she don't look like a farmer. She don't look like a farmer's wife in terms of stereotypes. She is gorgeous. She is classy. Okay, she looks like a city girl, but she's a farmer. So that's another way to dispel it, because look at an old bald-headed man like me, that may not be impressive. But with her being the face of agriculture, we can get a lot more flies with honey than with a fly trap. So, but as Minister Farrakhan has already changed it now. The problem is that now when these students go to college, farming. But there's only 1 or 2 colleges that do that anymore. One of those is right here in Georgia. It's the Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College, where in fact one of our first apprentices, he is at that school now. And at that school, you not only learn the theory, but learn how to do some welding. Okay? You learn how to fix stuff. You learn how to drive a tractor. You learn how to milk a cow. Whatever area you're going into, you can go hands-on as well as theoretical, and they don't do that at none of the colleges. As a matter of fact, one of the teachers at Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College said, and he teaches agronomy, PhD in agronomy from Penn State University. He said through his undergrad, his master's, and his PhD. Agronomy deals with the soil, right? Well, if you're dealing with the soil, you need to know how agricultural equipment is going to go through that soil, and the tractor power and the pulling power. He never drove a tractor. He was never introduced to driving a tractor, much less the implements that the tractor had to pull. Yes, he's teaching agronomy about the earth. Okay, that's how completely destroyed this educational system is. You studying agronomy, soil science to understand the earth that a farmer is going to manipulate, and you don't even know how to drive a tractor. You don't know what it even feels like when you hit a stump or you hit a rock. Okay, you don't have no. So it's completely BS. Is what they're doing, not just for black folks now, but for white folks too. Because what we gotta understand, in 1995, when we did Million Man March, the crackers decided, the small ones decided to sink the system, both the pole crackers and us in it, sink the whole ship. Okay? The fall of America is already happened. We just don't know it yet. So we can't look to them for education. So yes, Minister Farrakhan has inspired young people to go into agriculture, but unfortunately, when they go there, they're not going to learn anything about farming. They're not going to learn anything about how to set up a business. Now, the new agricultural paradigm that we introduced this Savior, I'll tell you how it works. A brother called me up on the phone just yesterday. He's a truck driver. He says he was talking about trying to move some products for the Stable Goods Project. I kind of explained to him some of the logistical problems we have. It's kind of hard to deal with an independent trucker because an independent trucker has to move 22 pallets of 4,000 pounds from one spot to the next. He gave me stopping, dropping off one pallet at a time. All right? But said, well, you know, he said, I want to get into farming too in the future. He said, could you tell me how do you do it? I said, okay, this is how you do it. It's now, number one, where are you going to be? Number two, who's going to be the market for the product that you're going to sell? Now, we at Muhammad Farm, we not grow wheat anymore. For a number of years, for 20 years, we grow wheat. But we no longer, this year, are growing wheat. We are growing flour. We are growing cream of whole wheat. We are growing bean pies. We are growing bread. Wheat is just an ingredient that goes into all of that, and we're going to do the processing all the way from the wheat to the flour to the bread to put it on your table to get all the money. That's a new agricultural paradigm. So first of all, you decide where you're going to be at, who you're going to serve, what do they want, and can you get it to them in a form that they're going to pay you enough money to pay for everything so you got some money in your pocket. Then you go and get the land to do that and the equipment to do the processing and to get it to the people who you're going to serve. But you do not go out to produce and try to find a market. I said, if I was going to put up peach trees on Muhammad's farms, I am not going to grow peaches on those trees. I'm going to grow peach preserve. I'm going to grow peach pies. Okay? I'm going to figure out how to sell peach pies to the final consumer and how many peaches I know to go in them pies. Agriculture, farm, business paradigm. And if I'm going to marry somebody, I'm going to marry somebody like Sister Ann, my wife. Why? Because she is a master cook, and she's learning and then teaching us how to process that wheat into other products, that flour into other products. So we're going to come out, not only cream of whole wheat, we're going to come out with cake mixes. So all you have to do is throw some water in there and put it in the oven. Okay? That's what she's working on right now. All right? So if you will be a farmer, man, you need to get you a woman who's going to take culinary arts. Because one day you might want to set up a restaurant. So she would run the restaurant, set it up, have hired other people while you produce the product for the restaurant. And y'all get all the money from the people. All right? You don't want, you are a farmer and she's a nurse. I mean, I ain't got nothing against nurses, but you as a farmer need somebody to help you in the business of agriculture. So you need to find somebody who can help you in the whole business, trying to get the product from the land all the way to the man. No middleman. Then you want to have children. You want to raise them. Okay, you're going to drive the truck, son. Okay, you can run the flour mill, sister. You understand what I'm saying? You're going to be the master baker, bro. All right? So you grow children to fit into the institution of your money building situation. That's a whole new paradigm now we're talking about. We learn how to take over industries. We want to take over the food industry. We want to take over the car industry. That's not my line. That's science and technology. We want to take over the arts, the movie industry. But that's arts. That's arts and culture. See, that's how they should be thinking. How they gonna take over an industry, and then what all the pieces you're gonna need to take over the industry and start training our young people and start hooking yourself up with people of like minds to take over the industry.
That's real. I would like to just bring in that Southern University here in Baton Rouge, when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan visited, he actually wanted to see the Department of Agriculture here. And all of the deans in the college agreed to meet with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, but he couldn't come. So instead we asked if Dr. Larry Muhammad could come in his stead. He did. They still all showed up. They said that and Southern University is one of the 1880 land grant universities, the largest system of universities, black universities, HBCUs in the country. They said that they will be willing to establish a pipeline from the Muhammadan universities of Islam into Southern University. They have money, they have brand new facilities, they have some people that are doing organic farming that are part of the FDA. We have many resources here in terms of agriculture. We invite you to come to Southern University and visit with the department here. They are open to the nation of Islam and basically anything that we have to offer.
Well, I'm glad to come there and to bring them into the new world. Because right now, yeah, that's a pipeline in the southern, but where the children going to go when they leave Southern? Are they going to go to ConAg? Are they going to ADM? Are they going to go to Monsanto? Are they going to go to the U.S. Department of Agriculture? Are they going to go to the FDA? You see, yes, there's a pipeline there, but where does the pipeline lead? The pipeline leads right back to the master. So we got to establish more than just an entry point. We got to determine what the output is. And if Southern ain't thinking about nation building, then they're just going to steer, just like my teacher trying to steer me into getting the job as an economist or an accountant when I get out of school. They're going to steer these young people towards the same direction because they don't know how to do it. They were not trained in terms of how they fit together as a whole nation building. They ain't thinking nation army just like everybody else. So they're only going to show you the pieces that they've been taught. When I went to Michigan State, I was thinking that white folks was hiding economics from me. When I went to Michigan State, I found out that them teachers did not know economics. I knew more economics than they did because I had the basics from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And then I can look at all their textbooks and their theories and cut beneath the flap and get to the grit. So much so that I was teaching my professors in college when I was at Michigan State. One of them came up to me after I graduated. He was a former economic advisor for Jimmy Carter. I told him some things in the class. Everybody looking at me, looking at him. Then after 2-3 years later, he came to me and said, Dr. Moomin, let's call me Dr. Moomin. Dr. Moomin, you were right. I said, well, thank you. Okay? Because he wasn't hiding it from me. He didn't know. He didn't know. So the teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad will open up anything that you're looking at. Once you got him in your head, in terms of your glasses, then you can look at anything in this devil's world and cut through the BS, get to the heart, ask the question to open it up so you can get what you need out of it. Because the ones who we see don't know. That's why I got my book, The Sheepdog, and the Evil Shepherd, because the people who we see as white folks who we're under, they don't know. They are stupid.
Right.
Okay? It's a whole set of people over them that dictate what's on their mind. And the only thing that keeps them in line is us, because they think that they are better up at the one who's ruling over them, playing games on them, because they think they're over us, but yet they are being played just like we are being played. So we don't need to be trained by the person who's played, and the players ain't gonna train us. So we have to train ourselves first in the teachings of Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's why the preschool, the elementary school, all that's so important in Muhammad University Islam system of homeschooling, to get the mindset straight. Put the God up in the mind, and then when the God is up in the mind, it can go out and seek all that it needs for what it wants to do. Remember, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the first God was out in the universe. We don't know how long to get himself together before he even decided that he was going to turn on the light. All right? So when you've got a purpose, you begin to pull things out of the darkness. Okay? You say, oh, I remember seeing that a million years ago. I saw that. I can use that principle right there. All right? Then you put it all together. Next thing you know, you got the light. Next thing you know, you can build a wife. Okay? But we don't know how long it took. But the first thing, it had a purpose. Now I got to get to this. I got to teach on this part right here. The first God, I got so much respect for the first God. I got big time respect for the first God. Because the first God, as we were taught, he didn't know whether there was another God in the universe. He didn't know that he was the first one. He didn't know. But yet, even though he didn't know, he turned the lights on. Now wait a minute. If he turned the lights on, there could have been a big monster sitting right there to eat him up. You know what we do when we scared? We put the covers over our head. We put our head in the sand. We try to hide. But first, God didn't know that he was the first God. All he knows there was triple darkness. And he turned on the light. That's a bad man. So we have got to stop being fearful and understand that controversy and problems are necessary for us to be like our Father. He had serious issues and problems. He didn't know everything, but he had enough knowledge and then the guts to turn the lights on. See, our problem right now, we don't have guts. Okay? We don't have confidence in ourselves that we can go for self. And that's why we can't figure this thing out. It's a lack of confidence. And I can't give you confidence. I can't make you go away from you. I can't turn you from being a coward. I can't do that. But that's what each of us has got to deal with that fear inside and the feeling of incompetency. Go and get you a skill into something and then build on that. I taught Boku jump. Why? I got a lot of skills. Therefore, you make fire me from this over here. But guess what? I got something I can go over here and do. I got skills. So once you got skills that you can go directly to your people and make money, then you don't even have to worry about nobody talking you out. Sorry about that. No, I took you on a whole different course.
No, actually, we're going to
go back to agriculture.
We're going to have you back on, because there's a lot in that, and it all does connect to what we have to be considering as we move towards a new educational paradigm. But we are getting close to that hour, and we want to make sure that we're always getting practical things that we need to be able to take and actually implement it. I know you mentioned a lot about what it takes to be prepared and how you went when you began to pursue your PhD, that you already knew what you were going there for. And that's a different mind state than what many of our children are going to these institutions doing. Many of them are going there to try to figure it out, or some other foolishness, you know. But we have to begin to prepare our children to have that type of mindset. And with that, you know, we're taught that the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is Yaqub in reverse. And in that, you know, Yaqub knew his purpose at the age of 6. So we can make some assumptions that he had some exposure to some different things that would allow him to be able to come and have in his mind an ideal and begin to be working towards that, right? He had to have some different experience and some different encounters that he would be able to look around and see something that he saw something different in. And with that, it actually takes us into that last question, which is what, as we're moving forward, we don't want to just have a discussion. We want to be able to move forward with this curriculum. And even though we may not have the school tomorrow, we can actually begin to make steps on identifying what needs to be in this curriculum. So with that said, are there some things that you can think of right now? You mentioned earlier the things that in terms of vocation, that those things aren't present in the school system right now, and that there's other things that you grew up with that were present that aren't now. Can you think of some things, can you identify some specific things that should be in this new education curriculum that, if it pleases Allah, that will be in there?
Okay. Number one, you got to put back in some type of vocational education. Okay? So people learn how to do things with their hands. Okay? Now, you got to have your basic sciences, your math, your physics, your chemistry, your botany, okay? So that you learn the universe that you're in and the rules that run it. In other words, the parameters of the model, the equations in the system. Now, then you move from your skill set of being able to just take care of yourself on plumbing, electrician, whatever, on a small level. Then you just, a whole world is over here on this side over here that I want to do it better. I know how to fix a car, but there's got to be a better way. Now you begin to say, well, now I know the basic sciences. You got combustion versus solar. You got electricity versus steam. You got all these things you learn your general sciences. Then you begin to say, well, I'm going to develop another paradigm to deal with making this car work and run better. So your first step, because when you come out of school, you definitely want to be able to know how to take care of yourself and your family in terms of basic rudimentary things, plumbing, electrician, carpentry, and fix your car, basic stuff you want to know. And then you want to be able to carry it further, but you can only carry it further if you have the basic sciences down. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that the Holy Quran, in the Holy Quran, Allah is teaching on many different levels. But until we learn more about His universe, then we will not be able to hear the message that He just gave us. So as you learn more of the science of the universe that He built, then you can understand some of the keys that He's given you to overcome some of the bottlenecks in that and improve on that model. The Jews they understand God similar to us, but they got a different point of view. I heard this cracker say this. He said, we do not believe, this is what he said on NPR, we do not believe in a beneficent and merciful God. We believe that God created the heavens and the earth imperfectly and then left us in it to do the best that we could. Now, that's true, but the point of view and the emotions is wrong. Yes, God did create, but He does not just create, He creates. The process of creation has not stopped. Right. That's what it says. He, Allah, who creates. So He didn't create it one time and just stop and left it imperfect. He's been working on perfection, and guess what? You are His children to participate in perfecting what He started. So He didn't leave you alone. He left you with something to do so you'd have a purpose of just sitting around looking at everything, spectating on things, enjoying things where they are. No, you have in you, you look for problems. Okay? You're dissatisfied. You see something and you feel you want to do it better. Well, that's something for you to do. When everything was fixed, there was nothing for you to do. That would be boring as hell. So when the Jews look at it as a curse, we look at it as a blessing.
Thank you, Dr. Ridgely. Now, you touched on something, and we're getting really close to the hour. And before I go, I have a question up here. I'll go ahead and ask.
Let me say this.
Yes, sir.
Let me say this. Oh, let me say this about agriculture. Let me say this about agriculture and farming. I was just with one of my customers, and they're trying to develop up in Cordell some gardens. Okay? And so he asked me, he's going to the meeting, he's already been, he said, what can I say? I said, say this. I said, there's not a food desert in the black community. There's a brain desert in the black community. They don't cook. They don't want to cook. They eating at McDonald's and Burger King. So they can't do nothing with the vegetables. The children got to be trying to cook. When the vegetables come off, you do your gardens, a whole bunch of stuff is going to come off at one time. You got to know how to cook. You got to know how to store. When I was younger, everybody had a big freezer. So you would get your produce in the summer, you would freeze it, or you would can it, make preserves out of it for the winter. Okay? Now we don't cook, we don't can, we do not freeze. Therefore, we don't nothing to do with the vegetables. So producing the vegetables is not going to solve the problem. The problem is not in the land, it's in the man. The problem is in the brain. Okay? We don't want to cook, but young people now are beginning to learn that they need to cook being poisoned. They're being poisoned in the food, they're being poisoned in the water. So now they got to learn how to get the food. Now they got to learn how to purify our own water, because we finally realized that these crackers are out to get us. All right? They've lulled our people to sleep, let the white man take care of everything for them. All they had to do was get a paycheck and pay the white man take care of them. Now we're seeing now that's all a trick. So now you got to learn how to grow your own food, but then you got to cook it. You got to store it. All right? So now the problem now is it's not in the land, it's in the man, it's in the brain. There's no food desert, there's a brain desert. And only the teachers of Honorable Elijah Muhammad can solve that brain deficiency. I'm sorry, brother.
There's nothing to apologize, because that's going right at what we need to have and establish a new educational paradigm. And I like that you brought up and you touched on different ministries. You touched on trade and commerce. You touched on the science and technology. You touched on, even without saying it, you touched on information. And with that is that as we're looking at a new educational paradigm, and as we're looking at this developing a true ministry of agriculture that's able to feed our people, you can't do one without the other. If we go on and we have all of these businesses, and the minister talked about it in the study guide, self-improvement, the basis for community development, and he talked about they were building these great buildings all over the place, and he said, well, if you don't build the people will destroy it. So as we move towards developing and feeding our people and buying land, if we go into it with the same old mind, then we won't have it for too long. With that is one of the things I want to jump back real quick to and have you touch on, in the lessons. And of course, many of the things that we may be talking about, because this audience is not just those who are registered citizens of the Nation of Islam, but as students of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad under the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we're given lessons, and a part of those lessons, it ends with the problem book. And you mentioned earlier that our goal and the importance of us finding problems and solving them. So can you kind of touch a little bit more on how, and particularly in tying it with education, and how our education is tied to us being able to solve problems? I know it's a lot in that, but if you could just touch on that.
I ain't gonna be long. I ain't gonna be long. Look, in the problem that these were the problems, they represented the problems of our people. The problem book represented the problem. So you don't solve the problems by doing the math in the problem book. You see how that math, that problem relates to your people, and when you solve that problem of the people, then you have solved the problem in the problem book.
That's right.
Okay? So the issue is not to impress anybody with mathematics or any knowledge that we have. The issue is how it can be applied to serve the problems that we have. We should look at ourselves as tools to solve problems of the world of our people. We do math and science and technology to help solve that problem. But the issue is to solve the problem. So the problem book is not just to sit down and do the math. Okay, it's in there, and then it's so deep. One day I'm going to really get into that problem with y'all. That thing is deeper than deep. The problem book is training us how to be gods. And one way you're training how to be gods is you not only deal with solving the problem, you deal with the question behind the problem. And then you deal with the data in the question behind the problem. And you say, now, what's the real deal behind this problem? What is he trying to say? And now how do we solve that problem that's beneath the problem that we're reading?
Thank you, Dr. Ridgely. We're definitely going to have you come back on. We had another guest who's also part of the local organizing, the Justice or Else local organizing committee here in Chicago that wanted to join us but had a few technical issues. But we want to get you back on and actually reach out for some other individuals, of course, with your recommendations. Maybe try to get Brother Will Allen, because the topic of agriculture is something that's definitely important. I want to, at this point, just make a really quick suggestion to let you know that the Justice or Else movement has not stopped. And all of the work that we're doing right now with agriculture, we're going full throttle. Dr. Ridgely mentioned earlier the presentation that he did at Savior's Day, which was a big, not a launch, because the Ministry of Agriculture has been going on for a while, but a boost, and encouraging those who have that background to join on and let's get the work done. And so I would encourage you to go to justiceorelse.com/ministries, justiceorelse.com/ministries. You can sign up for the ministries, and you can see a description of all the ministries that are listed right there in that location. That's right. But one of the things I want to throw at you is that I have another question that comes from, this one is from Sister Rashida, and she said, Salam, and she said, besides purchasing items from black farmers, what else can we do to support our black farmers that would greatly and positively impact them?
Well, one thing you can do is set up a buying club in your city that you can buy collectively, because you can't buy from a black farmer just by yourself, because you can't get shipped to you. The cost is too much. So it's in your cities to buy collectively. Now, once you organize yourself to buy collectively, that one day will turn into a cooperatively owned grocery store. All right? So we got to set up systems if you really want to help the farmer. You see, when there was segregation, we had our own hotels because we couldn't go to the white man's hotel. We had our own restaurants because we couldn't go to the white man's restaurant. We had our own schools, and the school had lunches. Okay, we had a market because we had a segregated system. We have to have a separated system that we control so that we can provide a market, a steady market for our farmers. So the answer is they got to start organizing themselves.
Thank you, Dr. Ridgely. Sister Deborah, any closing remarks to take us out on? Of course, we'll let Dr. Ridgely close us out, but do you have any other comments or questions you want to pose before we close out for this episode? Time has definitely been flying.
Absolutely, absolutely. I guess the one thing I would ask Dr. Ridgely is the connection between land and education. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in the 5th Annual Educational Challenge connected land and education. Could you speak into that a little bit, the connection that is between those two disciplines?
Well, it's like this. When you look at land, and now you know, I tell people the difference between a farm and a garden. Okay? The difference between a farm and a garden is not the size. If you have a 10,000 acre piece of land that you don't need to worry about making a profit because you're a billionaire, then that's just a big hobby, right? But if you got an acre of land, and out the acre of land you got to feed your family, and you got to make some money to pay your bills, then that becomes a farm because it's a business. So first, the land could be a burden to you. You got to pay taxes on it if you don't know what to do with it. So land produces a problem and a potential. Okay, you got to learn the potential to change from a problem into something useful. So having the land itself, and this is why I don't see the great increase in money to Muhammad Economic Blueprint, because in actuality, most of our people, educated people, they don't want no land because that means work. They're trying to find an easy way to make some money. All right, so that means work. So they don't want land. I mean, I say what happened up in Washington, D.C. When Minister Farrakhan at 10, 11, 15, he had those 600 people together who were who had skills. And so he said, we need 100 million acres of land. Okay, there was a little applause. Then he said, and we got to have our own banks. Yay! I saw that with my own eyes. Land, it was a polite clap. A bank, yay! Why? Because when they see a bank, they see money, they see working 10 to 3 in air conditioning and getting paid a whole lot of money. But when they see land, they go have to work and sweat. And they know they're supposed to want it, so they have to clap. But they don't want it because they don't want that type of work. They want easy money because we were made lazy, shiftless, and indoors. We don't want to go outdoors no more.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ridgely. Are there any comments that you want to end us out on? Just dealing with, of course, practical things, and I think that that's an important thing to end on. You know, in many instances, and I always reflect on the study guide, self-improvement is the basis for community development. And for me, that was one of the things that was most attractive to me is becoming a citizen of the Nation of Islam, because it made me feel empowered. Because whatever was going on in my life, you know, prior to that, I could blame other people and say what they weren't doing and how they mistreated me or whatever critique I wanted to make of other people, and it would allow me to take the responsibility off myself. But coming into that and seeing that if whatever problems that are going on in my life or whatever challenges that are around me, if I take responsibility and if I see myself as the source of the problem, then that also empowers me to change it. Because if I see somebody else as the problem, that means I got to wait for them to change. If I see myself as the problem, then the only person that I have to focus my attention on changing is myself. So can you leave us out on that note for those who are viewing and those who will view?
Yes.
What is it that we can do right now as we step away from this? So this is not just talk. What is the action that we can begin to make those baby steps right now?
Find your purpose in life. Mr. Farrakhan said at a men's only in 1994 up in Washington, D.C., he said that Allah has placed in each of us a special gift that the world is waiting on. Either you learn what that gift is and you present it to the world, or your God will kill you. Now, what do you mean by your God will kill you? See, he's talking about the God of self. You destroy yourself if you don't find out your purpose in life. So I'll say to all of you, find your purpose. I am in the hereafter because I have found my purpose. It don't mean that it's easy. It don't mean that I'm not catching hell every day, okay? But I choose to because I'm trying to solve a problem. I'm trying to be a God. I'm trying to solve big problems, all right? So I'm already in the hereafter because I found my purpose. So I get in an argument with my wife over this issue. I say, the Nguzo Saba should start off with Nia. That's my daughter's name. I name her Nia. And she's always had purpose, okay? You must have purpose before you can find unity. Unity to do what? We are not a racist people by nature, okay? Therefore, just to say, being black, come unity, for what? We have purpose. Now, what is our purpose? Our purpose should be kingdom on earth, bringing God's kingdom on earth. The white man's world is not the best thing that's ever been, and we can do a better job, led by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Allah, who came the person of Master Farad Muhammad. Through us, we're going to build the best that it's ever been. That's our purpose. Now you find out what you go do in that line, and then all that you need will be given to you by Allah, because it's already in there first. It will come out of you once you have found your purpose. But until you find your purpose, you're gonna be a problem for yourself, and you're gonna be hell on everybody else, because every time you see them doing something, you saying, I should be doing that. I should be doing that. Well, then do it. Then you won't need to block anybody else.
Thank you, Dr. Ridgely, and thank you, Sister Deborah. As we always do, we look forward to you on the next show. Look out for us on Facebook. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Google+. And we're going to end, as we always do, with the words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I believe this is a lecture from 2005, which he did at Kennedy King College on online education. Having a little technical difficulty. Give me one moment, please.
Blog Talk Radio, NOI, every Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. Call-in number, 347-945. 5454. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. It looks like I'm having a little technical issues right now. It's not coming up, so I'll make sure that when we actually post this up, that video will follow the presentation. Thank you once again. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.